my friends. Welcome to God Focus this morning. The title of today's episode, The Right Place. Many people struggle with finding their place in the world. People in their teens and 20s especially are trying to figure out who they were meant to be. But you do not have to be a teenager to struggle with identity questions. Who am I meant to be in this season of life is a question that we all ask often. Many things can change that will push us from one season to the next. I talked to you yesterday about being in the right place or the secret place in God. When we find ourselves asking questions of God, He will give us the answers to our new seasons in life. I came across a Hebrew word in my studies. It is anava, which means bring down. It is translated into the English word humble or humility. We often think of humility as having a modest view or a low view of our own importance. We may approach God with this point of view because God's ways are always higher than our own. We are lower than He is because He is the one that created us. However, this word doesn't mean humility in the same way that we think about it today. When the Bible was written, the word anava was used, and its meaning was to take up the space that God gave you. Being aware of and occupying the territory that God created for you. Today, we would be considered humble if we backed off and gave someone else the spotlight. However, there are times that God has given you that particular space to occupy. The hard part is knowing where your place is. God doesn't want us to overestimate our territory, but He doesn't want us to underestimate it either. He wants us to walk confidently in the place that He has put us with conviction that we are where He wants us to be right now for this season, but not to be overbearing like we have all the answers. When we walk in humility, we are walking in the God-given space. If we can do that, we will be an influence to those around us because we will be perfectly aligned with the will of God. Think about it. Have you ever had a moment where you knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that you were right where you needed to be, perfectly aligned with God? In that moment, He used you to make a huge difference in someone's life. Like the time I told you in another video how God rerouted my entire day to put me at the falls to keep a woman from committing suicide. What if I had missed that moment? Evil people have overestimated their place in the world all too often. In the book of Esther, look at Haman. He had been made second in command of the kingdom, but that wasn't good enough for him. He was one step below the king, yet he was angered because a lowly man named Mordecai would not bow to him. He was trying to overreach his place in the world. When we are evil, like he was, our overreach is always our downfall. He wanted to kill God's people, not something that was in his original design from God. He ended up hanging on the gallows He built for Mordecai. Mordecai, however, walked in the place that God had for him. He would not bow to Haman because he said he only bowed to his God, Jehovah. Mordecai did what he knew God wanted from him, to stand strong in his faith. God blessed Mordecai for his faithfulness. It is easy to walk in the flesh and allow the enemy to mess with our thinking. If we can learn to walk in humbleness before God, He will help us. Underestimating our abilities is not humbleness, it is false humility. God doesn't want us to walk in that either. The enemy is out to destroy our identity. He wants us to feel like we cannot step into the calling that God has for us. He makes us feel like we can never fill the space that God has for us to occupy. In truth, we cannot on our own. But allowing ourselves to be meek enough to let God lead, we can do anything He has called us to do. Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the thoughts that I think toward you, saith the Lord, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. He knows what He's doing. He created each of us with a plan and with a purpose. It is up to us to get in that secret place with Him and let Him tell us who we are and what He created us to do. Isaiah 55:8-9. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, saith the Lord. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. Our Christian walk is all about balance, not too much or too little. Like those who are legalistic, they are on the one side way too far. They make up rules to make sure to keep people in line. They think too highly of themselves. Then you have those on the other side who have a nonchalant attitude that because God gives us grace that we can do whatever we want and it's okay. They think too little of their real place in God and in His blood. Somewhere in the middle is the Christian that wants to please God. They want to do His will. They don't care about man's legalism, even though they are persecuted by the overly religious. They try to keep God's commandments and do the right thing, even though there are those who are Christians in name only that try to sway them the other way. Oh, this little thing won't matter. That little thing won't matter. And in the middle of it all is God and His plan for our lives. The Anava. Think about where God wants you to be. Ask Him to point you in that direction. I pray that you will learn to be right where you need to be at all times. That is my prayer for my life, that I am always occupying the right space in Him and for Him. Thanks for watching. Until next time, be bold, be brave, and keep your God focus. Like, share, and subscribe for more encouragement. Have a wonderful day.